Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn, and today we are discussing something that came up in a video that I shot recently that I wanted to expand upon more, and that is plants that will trick you, aka plants that have characteristics that are kind of widely advertised as being the desirable thing about the plant that are not actually what they appear to be. I've had this happen to me, I'm not gonna lie, where I saw something that I thought was really beautiful on plant community social media, and then I ended up with the plant in my possession, and there were things about it that were not really what I thought I was getting into. So we're gonna get into that in a moment, but first, please, if you like this video, if you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, leave me a comment, tell me what you're thinking, even just leave an emoji. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, consider turning on your notifications for the channel if you're subscribed, because all of that really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And I feel really awkward about asking, but unfortunately, it works. So if you could please help me out, that'd be great. So the first way that I have been tricked by plants in the past is that they have characteristics that are really amazing when they're juvenile that they then lose as they mature. So one of the most kind of famous examples of this is the Philodendron majestic. This plant was really popular for a while. I used to have it. I really liked it, but it's known for its silver foliage, like its bright silver variegation. As the plant matures, it loses it, and it just kind of turns into looking like a boring varicosum. I didn't love that about it, so I got rid of mine. But yeah, if you like the plant, you would just have to like cut it back as it lost its color, which like I'm not like super into that. Another plant that's a good example of this, it's actually two different syngoniums that look similar. Like there's the Syngonium rayi and then the Syngonium wendlandii. When they're juvenile, they have these really cute little white stripes like go down the middle of their leaves, and they're really cute. But as they mature and the leaves get bigger, they lose it. So those plants used to be really popular for a minute, but I think that honestly kind of issue with them losing the cutest part of their characteristics as they got older was a big reason why like nobody really cares about them anymore. But just be aware that there are a lot of plants that have changing characteristics as they mature. So if you're looking into something, especially if it's like a little bit pricey for your budget, that the characteristics about it that you like the most are not things that you will lose if you are successful in growing the plant. There's lots of other ones like the Philodendron, Florida, like Beauty, Ghost, Pedatum, like all those plants in that kind of like group, they all have a lot of leaf morphology changes as they mature. So I don't think it's a bad thing with those. It's a good example of like things that are juvenile may not look like that forever. The strawberry shake's another good example. Like when they're really juvenile, their leaves are very like lance shaped, and then they grow and they kind of become, you know, more like this. And I remember back when these plants first came out, like people didn't even realize that that's what the leaves like eventually turned into. They thought that they stayed lance shaped forever. So it was kind of a funny surprise. But yeah, just be aware, lots of plants lose or gain different characteristics as they mature. So don't get tricked. Make sure you do your research. So another way that plants can kind of like deceive or kind of be falsely advertised is if they have characteristics that are unstable depending on the conditions that they're in. So I think the best example of this is the Philodendron Paraiso Verde. They have this like mottled coloration that is really striking and really beautiful that they're known for, but that is only going to be maximize if they're being grown in very hot conditions, like 90 degrees plus. They are notorious for pushing all green growth during the winter time. I see people in groups like every winter being like, what's wrong with my Paraiso Verde? Did it revert? Did it revert? And the good thing is that they don't revert. It's not stable variegation. It's variegation that's produced by a virus. So like they always have the characteristics, but the temperature is really important. So I didn't know that when I first bought the plants, and I just thought they looked horrendous when they didn't have their color, especially since on the same plant you would end up with like a couple leaves that looked nice, a couple leaves that look slightly less nice, green, 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 and then they would start to look nice again, and it just, the whole plant didn't look cohesive, and I just did not like it, so I got rid of them. But if you live somewhere that's super hot year round, like, you know, you might be able to have something that looks really, really cool. But that is something to be aware of. And then kind of, you know, going along with that, with just like characteristics that are unstable, there are a lot of variegated plants out there that haven't been around that long, that haven't been propagated and cultivated and stabilized. So you might pay a lot of money for like this brand new unicorn variegated plant that just came out. Just keep in mind that because it's new to the market and new to the community, it is probably unstable. So you could kind of get tricked, I guess, in that way of like not realizing that not all variegated plants are created equal. Some of them have been propagated and meticulously stabilized over a long period of time, and some of them just literally are not considered like cultivars. They're literally just considered sports, which is when like a spontaneous mutation comes up. So just be aware that like if you're buying something that is like new kind of and novel, it could be very unstable. All right, so then another, I guess, thing, I think this is the most common way that like plants can kind of trick you, is that the color of the leaves when they are newly emergent doesn't stay. That is kind of the characteristic that draws people in, but then people are not like clear about the fact that like this is a newly emergent leaf, this color will fade down, this color will fade. So a good example of that is the Philodendron Jose Bono. And I just want to be clear that I really like my Philodendron Jose Bono, and I actually am okay with it fading down because it means that all of the leaves still have chlorophyll. But essentially, like, newly emergent Philodendron Jose Bono leaves have really beautiful, striking, creamy white variegation and like speckling. And then as the leaves get older, the white portions like kind of become greener and greener and greener, and the old leaves more of a green on green look to them. I did not know that when I first got my plant. I thought that there were different kinds of Jose Bono variegation, and some of them had white and some of them were green on green, and there were like, you know, different varieties in between. That's not true. They pretty much just fade down. So the white does not stay. So if you are looking for a plant like that, that has those kinds of characteristics, like make sure you're looking into, is this what all the leaves are gonna look like? Or do they start out looking one way and then they fade down and then it's not actually permanent? The mint Adansonii is another good example of this. Like the new variegation, a lot of it comes out white and then sparkly, and it's really pretty. And then as the leaves get older, they become greener and greener and greener. And like, to me, I just don't think it's as appealing as if they would just stay white. So I don't have that plant anymore either. And that's something that I didn't know about that plant. And I think that's part of the reason why that plant is not popular anymore, because people didn't realize that that's what they were getting into. There are actually a lot of really expensive, fancy Anthurium that are totally guilty of this, that you don't even know until you get the plant. Red crystallinum, I feel like, is one of the best examples, because the leaves that everyone always shows and takes pictures of and shows like red crystallinum are like the brand new emergents where they're bright red. They do not stay that color. They do not stay that color. And like when the leaves are fully hardened off and they've had some time to fade down, they look almost identical to just a regular crystallinum. Like the fireworks show, the spectacular part of that, it's only when the leaves are new. And this is most Anthurium. The new leaves are very beautiful and they have colors that are not gonna stay. There are a number of dock block Anthuriums where the new leaves like come out like bright pink and bright purple, and they're so beautiful, but they don't stay like that. And so like you have to make sure that if you're gonna shell out money on some of these Anthurium with like the colorful emergent leaves, that you like what the leaves are gonna look like when they're done hardening off. Because it's not even just like, oh, it doesn't stay purple or red forever. Like the new leaves are like, they are much darker than what the actual plant is gonna look like when the leaves are done. This is 100% true of goth plants. Like the super, super dark anthurium, the black leaves, those are the new leaves. Like those leaves do not stay black forever. Eventually they fade down. They may still stay like a fairly dark green, but they're not gonna stay black forever. And this is also true of most goth plants, most goth philodendrons. The super black leaves are only when they first are emerging. And this is actually, I researched this when I did my Halloween goth plant video a couple of years ago. This is actually an adaptation to protect the leaves from burning in the sun while they're still like floppy and fragile and newly emergent. And then once the leaves have hardened off, they fade down so that there's more chlorophyll to actually photosynthesize with. So just be aware, if you are a plant goth, most of the super expensive, like flashy goth plants, they're not gonna stay black forever. The one that I will say is the opposite of this, and it starts out bright green and then it turns black and it stays black, is the Raven ZZ plant. So pro tip, I guess, if you want something that's like black, the Raven ZZ is kind of a good choice, I guess. But that is kind of all I have for you today. Just kind of, this is not a comprehensive list of every single plant that like could trick you, but like I think it's a good starting point to like, you know, keep in mind if you're shopping for plants. So if you have other examples, put them in the comments, help everybody out. But that is going to be it for me for today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.